When my best friend Emily asked me if her son could stay with me for the weekend, I didn't think twice. I've known Emily for almost 20 years, and her teenage son Jacob was someone I'd seen grow up since he was a baby. He was 16 now, lanky and quiet, with a polite but slightly distant demeanor, the way many teens are when they're caught between boyhood and adulthood. Emily had to leave town for a work conference, and she didn't want to leave Jacob alone in the house, so naturally she called me. I had no kids of my own, and honestly I thought it might be fun. Jacob was into video games, music, and hiking, things I could easily entertain him with. Plus, I figured it would give me a chance to bond with him, since I'd always been more like Aunt Lisa in his life than just his mom's friend. I told Emily it was no problem and that I'd take good care of him. She dropped him off Friday afternoon with his backpack slung over one shoulder, earbuds in, and a tired but friendly smile on his face. "Thanks again for this," Emily said, giving me a hug at the door. "He might act like he's too cool for everything, but he's a good kid. You'll be fine." "No worries at all," I said, smiling at Jacob. "We'll keep busy. You like pizza, right?" That got the first real grin out of him. "Yeah, pizza's good." After Emily drove off, the house felt strangely quiet. Jacob put his bag in the guest room and came back downstairs. For the first couple of hours, things were normal. He set up his console in the living room and I ordered us pizza. We played some games together, though I was terrible compared to him, and then put on a movie. Everything seemed easy, even comfortable. It was later that night when things started to feel different. I couldn't explain why, but there was an odd energy in the air. Around midnight, while I was tidying up the kitchen, I heard footsteps upstairs. I figured Jacob was heading to bed, but when I went to turn off the lights, I noticed he was standing at the bottom of the stairs, staring into the living room. His face looked pale, like he'd just woken from a nightmare. "You okay?" asked gently. He hesitated, then nodded. "Yeah, I just thought I heard something upstairs. Like scratching." I frowned. My house was older, and sometimes the pipes or roof made noises, but the way Jacob said it gave me a chill. I walked with him back up to the guest room. Sure enough, when we stood there quietly, I heard it too, a faint scraping sound from the attic above us. Jacob's eyes widened. "See, that's what I heard." Trying not to alarm him, I said, "It's probably just raccoons or a squirrel. Happens sometimes in these old houses." But when the noise came again, this time a long dragging sound, I felt goosebumps crawl up my arms. Jacob glanced at me, waiting for reassurance I couldn't quite give. "Tell you what," I said, keeping my voice calm. "Why don't you sleep in the living room tonight? Couch is big enough. We'll check the attic in the morning when there's light." He nodded quickly, clearly relieved. We set up blankets on the couch, and I stayed up a while longer in the recliner across the room, just to make sure he felt safe. But I'll admit, I wasn't just doing it for him. Something about the sounds unsettled me more than I wanted to admit. At some point I dozed off. When I woke up, the room was dark except for the glow of the TV. Jacob was still on the couch, but his eyes were wide open, staring toward the hallway. I sat up immediately. "What is it?" I whispered. He lifted a hand and pointed. My heart thudded as I followed his gaze. The hallway was dark, but I swore I saw movement, like a shadow shifting against the wall. I held my breath, waiting, but it was gone as quickly as it appeared. "I saw someone," Jacob whispered. My skin prickled. "It's just shadows from the TV," I said, though even I didn't believe it. That night neither of us got much sleep. By morning the sounds had stopped, and I tried to brush it off as our imaginations getting carried away. Teens spook easily, I told myself, and I didn't want him thinking I was scared too. But all day Saturday, there was a heaviness in the house. Every so often I'd catch Jacob glancing toward the ceiling like he was waiting for something. Saturday evening we decided to distract ourselves with a hike at a nearby trail. Being outside helped. Jacob actually opened up, telling me about school, his friends, and how hard things had been since his dad left. My heart ached for him, and I realized this weekend was more important than I thought. It wasn't just babysitting, it was being there for someone who really needed it. By the time we got home, it was dark again. We made dinner and tried to keep things light. But that night, just as I was heading upstairs to my room, the scratching returned. Louder. Closer. Jacob came out of the guest room, his face pale again. "Lisa," he whispered. "It's not animals. It sounds like footsteps." I listened. He was right. Slow, deliberate steps creaked across the attic floor. Summoning courage, I grabbed a flashlight and the step stool from the hall closet. Jacob stayed close behind me. As I pushed open the attic hatch, a wave of stale, cold air hit my face. I climbed up carefully, shining the beam around. The attic was mostly empty except for old boxes, but in the far corner something caught my eye. There were deep scratches along the wooden beams, like claw marks. Fresh ones. My chest tightened. "See anything?" Jacob called softly from below. I forced my voice to sound steady. "Just some old damage. Nothing alive up here." But as I swept the flashlight one last time, I froze. For a split second I saw something move, a shape ducking behind a stack of boxes. My breath caught, but when I blinked it was gone. I climbed down quickly, forcing a smile I didn't feel. Nothing dangerous. Probably just the house settling. Jacob didn't look convinced, and honestly, neither was I. That night we decided to sleep in the living room again. Around 3 in the morning, I woke to a sound that still haunts me. Whispering. Not clear words, but soft, rhythmic whispers coming from the hallway. Jacob was already awake, clutching the blanket, eyes wide. "You hear it too," he whispered. I nodded, my throat too dry to speak. The whispers grew louder, circling the living room, until it felt like they were right behind us. I gripped Jacob's hand and whispered, "Stay still." Then, just as suddenly as it started, the sound stopped. The house fell silent again, but the air felt heavy, pressing down on us. Neither of us moved until the sun came up. By Sunday morning I'd made up my mind. I called Emily and told her everything was fine, but I didn't tell her the details. What could I even say? That her son and I heard voices in my house. That shadows moved when they shouldn't. She'd think we were imagining things. When she came to pick him up, Jacob hugged me tightly before leaving. "Thanks for believing me," he whispered. After they left, the house felt emptier than ever, but the unease lingered. That night as I lay in bed, I swore I heard faint scratching again above me. I tried to convince myself it was nothing, but deep down I knew the weekend had changed something. Jacob wasn't the only one who left my house different than when he arrived. I hadn't expected to discover that whatever was in my home was real, and worse, that it wasn't finished with me yet.